BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Black Box Ned 88 on Instagram for the bonus podcast. And just a couple quick things before we start. The first thing I would like to say is thank you to everybody who listened to our November Q&A session on the Zodiac Killer, which just came out. And as you'll see here from this one, this is part 3 of our Zodiac Killer discussion on Robert Linkletter. Yesterday I said that I would make the culmination of this short but very, very engaging series for me to learn about this stuff. I mean, I've definitely found learning about Robert Linkletter as a Zodiac Killer suspect turned out to be more profitable than I had imagined. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Sometimes when I get requests to do a suspect, I think, all right, this is just going to be a wild goose chase. There's not going to be anything here. What I have to say is, maybe I wouldn't say that I found the most credible or damning evidence to point toward Robert Linkletter's guilt in this mystery, but instead I think that it is somewhat of a valuable narrative, and we'll say some things about that throughout the duration of the recording, but you will notice that this is listed as part 3, and one point where I would like to be very clear on is that we did part 1, the Zodiac Killer, Robert Linkletter, part 1, Introduction is the name of the video, and the second one is just called The Suicide of Diane Linkletter. I really wanted that one to be a standalone episode on the suicide of Diane Linkletter, as well as talking about some possible connections of her brother, Robert Linkletter, and also for some reasons that we'll get into in this one. And this is part 3, and if you haven't heard parts 1 and 2, you can keep listening. I always hate it when I'm listening to a podcast and then they say, oh yeah, by the way, if you haven't heard parts 1 and 2, stop listening now and go to another episode. I always thought if I ever did any type of show, I would want to be like, you can always keep listening to the upload, just think of it as a discussion. But at some point in the future, I hope you guys will check out parts 1 and 2, but we're always keeping the discussion rolling. Yes, indeed, Robert Linkletter was a Zodiac Killer suspect, but he came to the attention of an individual named Mae Brussel that we talked about in part 1, and she has a video on YouTube. It's a segment from her radio show talking about the Zodiac Killer, and she really goes between many different topics throughout the duration of that one. I listened to that recently. It's just around 30 minutes long, maybe 27 to 30 minutes long. And I heard some of the things that she had to say, which really seemed like a reiteration of some of the material that we mentioned in part 1. But thankfully, the website Zodiac Killer Identified has some, I guess you'd say, breakdowns of what happened with Mae Brussel and a suspect in the Zodiac Killer mystery, Robert Linkletter. And of course, we're talking about the son of Art Linkletter, who was heavily connected to the media business, the brother of Diane Linkletter, as we said, who passed away in 1969, October 4th, 1969, from a suicide. And we should also say that Robert Linkletter passed away in 1980 in a car accident. Now, Robert Linkletter really becomes a Zodiac Killer suspect because there's a certain individual who was claiming to have some type of insider information, and she wrote something called the Woodland Hills Letter. And Mae Brussel talked about this on the show. We read off what appeared to be a transcript of it in part 1, but let's keep going here on ZodiacIdentified.com and let's expand upon some of these points. The author of the letter goes on to identify the Zodiac by his real name and said that he was a member of a white supremacist organization called the International White Guard. Somehow a copy of this letter came into the possession of Mae Brussel. On July 19, 1976, she called up Sherwood Morrill, a document specialist for the Bureau of Criminal Identification in Sacramento, being clear about that, and chief expert on the handwriting of the Zodiac. She read the letter to him and stated her belief that the Zodiac was involved in a different murder case as well. He was not a deranged man working alone, as commonly believed, but rather he was part of a group of extreme right-wing fascist killers, and that's exactly how it's written here. Extreme right-wing fascist killers. Maybe there is a bit of a dramatic tone in that. She urged him to be on the lookout for a ransom note and check it out for Zodiac handwriting characteristics. A few days later, newspapers reported the finding of a ransom note at the Woods house. Borman's revelation of the Zodiac markings would not emerge until almost 2 weeks later. After speaking with Sherwood Morrill, she called Dave Toschi, the detective for the San Francisco Police Department in charge of the Zodiac files. And bear in mind, this is still 1976, it seems. It seems that in 1978, Toschi might take on a different role. After reading the letter, she asked him if he knew the name of the man identified as the Zodiac. He said that he did. As she continued to ask more questions, he became increasingly angry, rude, and hostile. Toski said they would never bring him in, and they had no interest in pursuing Brussels' proffered lead. I guess that means they're bringing forth her suspect. And of course, because we are talking about this case, it is going to be pointing toward an individual named Robert Linkletter. And she has this letter. She has this Woodland Hills letter from somebody who claims to have some insider information. And what I can say about this one is, I think that this is a very well composed narrative when you're looking at the son of a media giant, the son of Art Linkletter, who created this persona as a way to somehow get revenge on society, and also even looking at the possibility that there's a connection between the death of Diane Linkletter, October 4th, 1969, and the Zodiac murders, which took place on September 27th and October 11th, with the Paul Stein shooting in Presidio Heights. I would have to say the biggest thing in advance of this is the chronology. The biggest thing in favor of Robert Linkletter as a Zodiac killer suspect is the time frames. For some reason, that just gets my attention. And not to mention, 4 days after October 11th is Robert Linkletter's birthday on October 15th. And it's almost as if there is this goal to commit these crimes in 1 year of a person's birth. But the thing is, though, we really do not have much evidence that is not coming from some origin of hearsay. While it is an attractive narrative, at the same time, there's a certain individual out there named Judith Shineland. She's perhaps more well known as Judge Judy, who would always say, "I don't read letters. They're not evidence. Don't tell me what somebody else told you. It's hearsay." And I really am just getting that vibe here, that the origins of everything pointing to Robert Linkletter as a Zodiac killer suspect seem to be based on sources that are not 100% primary, and especially if you have somebody who penned a letter and got it to Mae Brussels somehow, that it's really just not sufficient enough. One thing I would say is, in the past, I've said that somebody should write the Zodiac Killer Manson connection as a novel. I mean, it doesn't even have to be me. I just think that would be a great way to go about it, where it's like, there's a very big story in there, but this isn't a storytelling competition, because this Robert Linkletter connection to the Zodiac Killer mystery, I think that would make an excellent novel. It would make an excellent story. As we said, the son of a media giant, his sister figures out that he is the Zodiac Killer, or he is a type of serial killer that's been sending in these letters and cryptograms. And the only thing to support that, I would say, is that even if Diane Linkletter did not have prior knowledge that Robert was the Zodiac Killer, just knowing that all of this material had been published in the papers, including the Zodiac symbol that was published August 4th, 1969 in the Vallejo Times-Herald, and learning about how these things were mailed to not only the Times-Herald, the Examiner, the Chronicle, the three parts of the cipher, and she either figured it out or she had some type of prior knowledge thinking that her brother was the Zodiac Killer, and then he either coerced her into suicide or did something to cause her death. I would say a big point going against that is, when we did the Suicide of Diane Linkletter episode, it really appears, according to my brief reading on the internet, that she did not experience any injuries that couldn't be accounted for in the fall that she had from a 6-story window to the ground. So that, once again, also is less likely to suggest foul play. But to get back to that novel discussion, I mean, I think that would be a very big story. The son of a media giant, his sister figures out he's a serial killer, and that this all matches up like to the days of to certain days of significance in his life, and he has to culminate before his birthday, and then the killer is never caught. And we were talking about some of this yesterday when we did a challenge question from the infographics show, when they were even mentioning, why do you think the Zodiac Killer was never captured? And one of the possibilities that was brought up on the infographics show is that they were saying the Zodiac may have completed his criminal masterpiece. He may have completed his mission. It might have been accomplished. The problem is, though, this is not a storytelling competition. So when it comes to Robert Linkletter as a Zodiac Killer suspect, I am not I'm not really seeing the smoking gun or hard piece of evidence that would point in that direction. I definitely would say that it caught my attention more so than some people, like we've talked about Earl Van Best and George Hodell and various other suspects that I don't think have an enormous amount of credibility. And even in the past, I said I wouldn't do an episode on Jack Torrance as a Zodiac killer suspect because I thought there was nothing there. And if we're going to be talking about Mae Brussel and some theories that she has, this article from ZodiacKillerIdentified.com goes on to expand some of that because I was really waiting for the moment when we're going to look at, if we're going to say Robert Linkletter has some role in the Zodiac killer mystery. Mae Brussel talked a lot about the Zodiac Manson connection. So why don't we just have a very quick read here? And this article continues by saying, "This is the Zodiac speaking. The first time the Zodiac name became public was written in a letter. 4 days later, Manson sent 4 of his followers to the home of Sharon Tate. Linkletter was also at the Tate house that fatal night and somehow lost his glasses. As mentioned earlier, the right temple stem of the glasses was found at the Tate house was lower than the left." Oh, I guess they're talking about the glasses, the right temple stem versus the left. I'm not really an optical expert. "A picture of Linkletter showing both ears appeared in the Minnesota Star Tribune on November 19th, 1965. Since newspaper editors sometimes reverse pictures for various reasons, I've taken the liberty of changing one," and they're showing about how they have a photo here, but we don't need to describe that on a podcast. And I think they're trying to say that the glasses there had to be Linkletters. And this article even goes on to say that it's possible that the reason why Diane Linkletter passed away was not even because of the Zodiac killer mystery. It's because she had some insider knowledge about the Sharon Tate murders. So as you can see, that these things are heavily connected. And you really have to wonder about the timelines associated with the Zodiac Manson connection, because you have the Zodiac killer operating on July 4th, as well as operating on September 27th. But what's in the middle of July and September? The month of August, right? Which has Manson's Helter Skelter, the murders of of Sharon Tate and her friends, as well as the La Bianca murders, which happened the following night during the beginning of August. So that really makes you think about one thing. And I did say at the beginning that the biggest thing that is supporting the Robert Linkletter connection is the chronology. A little bit more about Robert Linkletter. He was born in San Francisco, California on October 15th, 1944. He was a free-spirited, curious explorer, according to his brother Jack, very capable of designing and making things. Well, that definitely is going to play some role in the Zodiac Killer mystery about design. I mean, someone is very familiar with things and things associated with the math and sciences. As a teenager, he built his own electric guitar. When his father refused to buy him one, he went to Santa Monica City College, where he acted in a musical comedy. His goal was to become a theater arts major at the University of Southern California, and then become an actor. Instead of going to college, he became the guitarist for a surfing band called the Cornells. From December 1962 to 1963, the band released 4 singles and 1 record. In May of 1963, he'd appeared on a television show called I've Got a Secret, and their secret was, we are all sons of Hollywood celebrities. Linkletter went into the Air Force and spent some time in Australia. Well, that's another thing, because at Lake Berryessa, the boot prints that were found were wing walker boot prints, like what someone would use to walk on the wings of an airplane. And then we're really trying to find either a Zodiac killer suspect who was ex-Air Force, or perhaps someone who would have had access to these things, because even this individual named Robert Graysmith, perhaps you've heard of him, pointed out that Travis Air Force Base is in the vicinity. And to talk about a different researcher, Gareth Penn, really likes to say that Travis Air Force Base is equidistant to Mount Diablo, which the Zodiac talked about, as is Lake Berryessa, equidistant, like the same distance. And it's possible that some people acquired the wing walker boots from Travis Air Force Base. Not 100% sure, but that is definitely one way to do this. And we say acquire, I mean, talking military surplus. Maybe they stole them even. Many different things. And the only final point I would like to say about Robert Graysmith, and one of his assumptions rather than a claim is, he said that maybe even somebody cut off the wing walker soles and then glued them onto a different pair of shoes, because Graysmith is really trying to pin this on Arthur Lee Allen, and as far as we know, Arthur Lee Allen really did not like to wear boots of that sort. Oh, yes, but Linkletter was in the Air Force and spent some time in Australia. During the last 6 months of his enlistment, he was at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. At that time, war protest songs such as Barry McGuire's Eve of Destruction and Bob Dylan's Blowing in the Wind were becoming very popular. Linkletter believes such songs were put out by radical nuts and had a depressing effect not only on military morale but also a nation as a whole. And this could be something else that we're just experiencing in the Zodiac Killer mystery, when you could have the Zodiac targeting San Francisco for a reason, the Bay Area for a reason, because he hated hippies. I'm not the first person to say that. This article is not the first place to say that. Many people have talked about this, about how they expect that either the Zodiac Killer really disliked hippies, or perhaps it was more of what Stephen K. described Charles Manson as being a slipping under the cover of being a hippie. But in reality, many people hated hippies, and we talked about this a lot during the episodes that we've done that mentioned Anton LaVey, who was the pioneer of the Church of Satanism. I shouldn't say pioneer because he borrowed a lot from Aleister Crowley as well as other sources, but the Church of Satan took off because people were once again against the hippies. So these are some commonly held beliefs at the time, and I could see that the Zodiac Killer would follow along with that, but I think we would need a little bit more than that to say that he was definitively the Zodiac. When he left the Air Force in October of 1965, he began a nationwide tour singing songs with a positive outlook. Oh, and a Zodiac Killer Identified has a very nice photo of Robert Linkletter with short hair, and that was from November 26, 1965. Linkletter was a prolific inventor with many patents to his credit. His best-known invention was the child-proof safety cap for bottles containing medications. What? After his death, his father set up Robert Linkletter Associates to promote the safety cap and placed as its head Charles Crozier, the attorney who was with Robert in the fatal car crash. Oh, wow. In 1983, the company was expected to produce 8 billion caps for the pharmaceutical industry. Goodness gracious. A search of newspapers.com website shows no pictures of Robert for the 6 years following November 1965, and then, on December 13th, 1971, his picture appeared in the Los Angeles Times, smiling like Cesar Romero playing the Joker in the TV series Batman. The accompanying article said he had joined the Board of Trustees for Los Amigos del Pueblo, a citizens group dedicated to preserving and restoring historic landmarks of the old plaza and the birthplace of Los Angeles. The timing of this odd picture is interesting. On January 25th, 1971, a jury found Manson and his female co-defendants guilty of murder. And also, 1971, 72, and 73, we will be experiencing the cease in Zodiac activity. But as you see with this Robert Linkletter connection, it's really turning into the Zodiac Manson connection. They're saying that this individual who was a media elite or the son of someone very famous, the son of Art Linkletter. I had never heard of Robert Linkletter before I learned about him as a Zodiac Killer suspect, and his sister Diane as well. But the Linkletter family, I said in part one, yes, of course, I have heard that name before, and definitely had some, exposure to their media and such. So the thing to say about this is that they're going down the pathway of, this is just another secret society that we have going on in California. There is some type of elite circle that is responsible for murdering. Perhaps it is this white supremacist group that was mentioned at the beginning, or also maybe it could be something to the effect of a thrill kill club, a shadow network of cult-like activity that California seems to have so many of, or perhaps this is just something to do with being anti-hippie, being against a particular movement. I mean, I'm not 100% sure about how this would happen, but the thing that I would have to say is that it's a very wild story. And it doesn't sound like it's the most far-out one that we've heard in the Zodiac Killer mystery. I think the most far-out Zodiac Killer suspect is probably George Hodell, the guy who would have been 68 years old, a former surgeon who was unable to inflict an ounce of medical knowledge at Lake Berryessa, or just, let's not kid ourselves, the Zodiac Killer was not 68 years old. And some of the other, perhaps more far-out suspects would be BTK Dennis Rader, but his family has completely said that anyone who's trying to do the BTK Zodiac connection will fail, because at the time of the murders, Dennis Rader was out of the country in the military, and he was stationed overseas. So they're just those are some far out wacky suspects as well. And I do have to insist, it does not appear that there is the strongest connection of using any type of physical evidence. I really do like the explanation, though, given at Lake Berryessa about why the killer wore the hood. It's because it was to disguise some type of either beard or haircut, or it would be some way for the perpetrator to be looking a certain way in the general public, and then was going to wait 2 weeks for the Paul Stein murder to alter his appearance. So that was a big reason for the hood. And if we're going to get into any type of cult-like practice, there's also the Zodiac killer itself, symbol itself, and thinking about all these things about how Robert Linkletter is involved with many different types of design. I mean, this is not the craziest suspect I've ever heard. However, at the same time, I would have to say that I am not 100% convinced of any of the claims, but I would like to give a big thank you to ZodiacKillerIdentified.com. If you'd like to hear more of their stuff, you can visit their website. I'm citing them as a source. And as I said, I hope you'll check out our uploads on Robert Linkletter Part 1 Introduction, as well as the suicide of Diane Linkletter. What do you have to say about the Robert Linkletter connection? Do you think that this suspect can exist independently from the Manson connection? Do you have to get involved with the Sharon Tate murders, or do you just simply say that they were two tragedies that took place at similar times? And there are multiple tragedies, of course, in the Zodiac Killer mystery. And really, with Manson's Helter Skelter, it expands to so much more than just the murders of Sharon Tate and the La Biancas. We also have the murder of Gary Hinman, the murder of Shorty Shea, and we aren't even 100% sure how many people were murdered by the Manson family, because it wouldn't only be people like Tex Watson and the women. What is Bruce Davis doing, and what is Bobby Beausoleil doing? We aren't even 100% sure how many people they murdered. So are these just two different sets of criminal activities that are going on at the same time? Or do you believe that there is a type of link that is happening, perhaps through some type of thrill kill club, perhaps through some type of cult-like activity, or just the elite circles running wild and committing thrill kills because they know they're going to get away with it? What do you have to say about any of this? And thank you for listening to our upload on the Zodiac Killer suspect Robert Linkletter Part 3. And if you haven't heard our question and answer session from yesterday, please feel free to visit any of the Q&As that we do on this channel, Black Box Online Radio. You can always hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And I will see you on Instagram for the bonus podcast. Until next time.